Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and today I've got my buddy John Clauser from America. How are you, mate?
Doing good, mate. Doing good.
We've got another Rock Postcards episode. So this time John has put an album on the plane and sent it over to me, and we are talking at Detente, which is a 80s thrash metal band from America. So, John, maybe just give us a little bit of a spiel about Detente, and I'll tell you what I think about this album.
So a little bit about Detente. So you have, this is the band right here. Very thrash metal band looking. The person with the sunglasses, Don Crosby, is your vocalist.
Yes.
Which was a little unusual for that kind of style of music, and that kind of in that time period. They were signed to Roadrunner Records and was licensed to Metal Blade, where I first heard of them on a compilation. They basically just have this album with Dawn.
Recognize No Authority.
Recognize No Authority. The band would eventually break up, and Dawn would kind of come back with another band called Fear of God. And this is their album Within the Veil. There is a second album, but I haven't tracked that one down yet. This is a little different sounding. It still has a thrashy element, but there's a lot of spoken words and just a lot of moody atmospheric stuff, but still a very good album. They eventually would regroup with a different singer, and they have another album here called Decline. And there is even I'm actually going to show this off.
Right.
I'm going to show off a vinyl version of a live bootleg that they released, which was recorded at a place called the Country Club in Reseda, California. It's a shame because I think it sounds like there's 10 people in the audience, but it's still a pretty good live album. So, but yeah, very, very thrashy. There is a fellow in the band named that does some maybe fans of the new metal scene will recognize, a guy named Ross Robinson. Would go on to produce a lot of the new metal bands. Also has a credit, I think it is as assistant engineer for Wasp's Crimson Idol. So that's pretty cool too. So, yeah, this is just such a thrashy in your face album. So, Peter, I'm going to let you take it away and let's hear what you thought of this one.
A lot of bands on the Roadrunner label obviously didn't have the production budget that you would get on a major label. So it's very evident that the production side of it was a bit more on a lower budget. You don't hear the separation of instruments. It's a bit garage sounding, and that's the first impression that I had in regards to it. So the first song is Losers, and Dawn Crosby's vocals, how do you describe it? I would describe it as maybe Udo from Except on Steroids. It's very sort of, she sings like she's got razor blades, but it's very emotive, and that's not a bad thing because we're talking about thrash metal, and let's face it, there weren't too many female vocalists in the thrash metal genre in the mid-'80s, so she's a bit of a trailblazer. And when I listen to her vocals, I hear a bit of Doro, I hear a little bit of Udo, but it's certainly her own, and it could be an acquired taste for new listeners. You've got to get past that. And look, I lived through that thrash metal scene in the 80s, and it's nothing new to me. But The Losers is a good little opener. It's got thunderous drums. The double kick is just going in. It doesn't, it's got the gang vocals. It's very aggressive. It's in your face. It's a good little opener, but the thing that sort of holds it back for me is, sadly, is the production values, but it's not their fault because you're on a Roadrunner label and you haven't got $1 million budget that a lot of those major acts had. So got to work through that. And that's not necessarily a negative. Then we go to Russian Roulette, track 2. Now, and the thing that I'm starting to see about this band is their template is social commentary. Mm-hmm. They are talking about world politics. They're talking about social observations. They're not just talking about what were the favorite topics of thrash metal, Satanism and just Dungeons and Dragons. They're going into social commentary. And I'm starting to think maybe this is a little bit beyond a thrash metal band. It's going into hardcore punk, because punk, what's the difference between thrash metal and punk? Maybe there's some instrumentation differences, but social commentary, hardcore punk was very much about political, what's happening in the world, interactions between the sexes. It was like more of a world scale, where you look at the social commentary in thrash metal was very defined. And I'm thinking, okay, this band is pushing the boundaries a little bit here. So you've got social commentary. It's got a fast and rolling guitar line. To me, it sounds like it's sped up Iron Maiden. So I'm thinking Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind era. It's got that rolling riff. Mm-hmm. And I can see that there are definitely some Iron Maiden influences in this band. However, it's taken up a notch, and it's in the world of Detente. So it's got a Steve Harris bass line, and you got this siren-like chorus by Dawn Crosby, and it's got an interesting guitar licks in the solo. The guitar solos, I must say, in this album are quite interesting and left field. When you listen to a record, you can just work out where the guitarist is going from A to B. This band, no, that was going in different angles, and I like that. I like being taken on a journey and not knowing where the guitar licks are going to go. And in listening to this album, I didn't know where they were going, and that's a big tick. So that's Russian Roulette. It's your fate. You don't decide. Again, social commentary. So I picked up some of the lyrics. So, born into a class structure, rich man or slave at his feet, bystander or maker of crime, killing in war or doing time. It's pretty out there. So this is not a neat, dumb metal band. This is a metal band with intelligence, emotive lyrics, and social commentary. Again, from a musicology background, you've got the double kick drums. It's pounding. It's got that anvil-like rhythm. And, again, Dawn Crosby's voice is like acid, but matching with the music, it's aggressive, it's in your face, and it's kind of exciting. So that's It's Your Fate. I'll throw it quickly to you, John. When you first heard the this band, how did you take to Dawn's singing? Was that a bit of a over time you had to get used to it, or was it a little bit? I'm not sure.
No, when I first heard them, it was, of course, I said it was on a compilation. It was on Best of Bellblade Volume 2, and I was like 16, 17 years old at the time, and that track I just automatically gravitated to. That was just one of the stronger tracks on that album, and I just loved listening to it over and over. I didn't mind that shouty, thrashy, razor blade vocal that she had. I just thought there was just something really cool about it, and I liked the aggressiveness of it, and because I was really getting into a lot of that kind of stuff anyway. I was already listening to Slayer and Metallica and Megadeth, so that kind of stuff was just getting in more of my DNA. And so those more little known Metal Blade Roadrunner bands would be stuff I would gravitate towards more so, because I wanted to cheer for the underdog, the guys who wanted to fight to get to that major label kind of thing, which they never got there. So that's probably why I have such a soft spot for a lot of these bands like this. But Detente was no exception, because that was, the next track we'll talk about was my introduction to them. So
yes, absolutely. And interesting you say Megadeth, because this is one of the most Megadeth sounding tracks on the album, Holy War.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's going in that social political spectrum. It starts off with an ominous bass line and then goes into this dark, evil guitar riff. And it's anchored by this drumming, the bottom end. And it's got this real kind of evil groove. And what I like about it, which again goes into a little bit of punk, is the call and response. You know, she's on the vocals, and then you've got the other guys in the band doing the response. So it makes it kind of interesting. Interesting key changes, because that's another thing in metal. You know, key changes, you've got to make sure it's spot on and it suits the song. And the key change in this this particular song midway through is perfect. And again, you got a guitar solo that is unpredictable. You don't know where it's going to go. And that made it quite interesting for me as a listening experience. But I think I was reading a lot of YouTube comments just to get a feel of people's opinions on this album. And a few people were saying that they could imagine Dave Mustaine singing, these tracks. Because yeah, very much in that sort of early Megadeth wheelhouse.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And of course, coming out of that bridge, in the guitar solo, then you have the tempo getting faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
It stayed that halftime, but then it would speed up, which that was, to me, I thought that was really cool too. So back. But yeah, that guitar solo is a lot of fun to try to play. I've tried.
Yeah.
I don't do too well with it.
We all try. That's all we can do. I like the next one, Catalepsy. That's an instrumental, and funny enough, the production values on this song sound better than the rest of it. So I don't know if what they did, but it sounds a lot cleaner. There's a better separation between the instruments.
Yeah.
Again, it's got this heavy dark groove, and it switches into this pounding thrash song. And you feel like you just want to jump in the mosh pit. And that's what I was thinking. I was just imagining my 18-year-old self getting up on stage, doing a little hop, and then just jumping into the audience. I would imagine that would be the sort of show. I'm sure that there's some live footage. I haven't got around to seeing it, but I'm sure that those shows by this band would have been insane. So,
yeah, I would. Like I said, if this live bootleg album, I would hope that their shows were a little more attended better than what this one sounds when you hear the crowd, because it really does sound like 10 people. It doesn't sound like there's a full club there, unfortunately. But you would think that would be an insane audience. Yes, absolutely.
Shattered Illusions. So this one, Dawn is sounding very Doro-like. So again, it's like an Iron Maiden riff that's sped up. It's probably to be fair, it's a bit of a middling deep cut. So it's not one of my favorite songs on the album. And another thing, when we're getting into the second half of the album, it starts to trail off. To me, the material is so much stronger in the side one, the first couple of songs, but it sort of trails off towards the end. I guess I'm just calling it as I hear it. But that's not one of my favorite songs. I think it's a bit middling, and a bit sort of picks up of themes that they did earlier. Life is Pain. This is a slowed down riff. It's very sludgy. But the chorus, it changes time signatures and it gets really thrashy. So there's a bit of light and shade here, and that makes it kind of interesting. And the bass playing, it's got that Steve Harris, really thick bass lines right to the fore. So with the drums. And Dawn almost sings in this song. I don't know what you think about this one, but, she's not screaming, but she's trying to sing. It builds up. I describe this song as it builds up steam. It's like a boulder going down a hill. So it starts off sludgy and doomy, and then it just builds up and, rolls from there. So, Blood I Bleed. Interesting. it's a feminist message in a metal song. Tick.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was doing that in thrash metal in the mid 80s? Trailblazer.
Nobody I can think of.
That's trailblazing. That's great.
Yep.
That's all I've got to say about that song. The message, and she's obviously feels very strongly, and it hits you in right between the eyes, that song. So I think that's a magnificent song, and
Mm-hmm.
social commentary. And then you have Windows Walk, and which is, to me, it's sort of, again, another one of those middling tracks. I think it sort of loses a little bit of steam towards the end. And then it finishes up with Vultures in the Sky. Another thing I wanted to mention, and which is in this song, is they've got a lot of media sound grabs. So they do these little snippets. So again, it all adds to the atmosphere of a very much of a social commentary album. So this one has a sort of a little media grab or a little bit of commentary, and it adds to the atmosphere of the song. I find Dawn's singing, I wrote down like a punk hardcore Lita Ford. I don't know, I just felt Lita Ford on this particular track. It's not a bad track that ends the album. And again, Vultures in the Sky, very much political, social commentary, things that were happening in 1986.
Yeah.
So all in all, this is an impressive album. I'd probably give it a 7. And I might even rate it higher on subsequent listens. But the material's there, and it's a very aggressive, in-your-face political album. And to me, it sticks out from the pack simply because you've got a female vocalist who's a trailblazer, interesting lyrics, interesting instrumentation. Do yourself a favor and check this out. And
check them out.
Daytime.
Yeah, and again, and I think our good buddy Steve Deluxe, I think, has mentioned this album on his show, The Fear of God Within the Veil. Here she does sing a little bit, and it is a very nice voice. It does kind of maybe a cleaner Doro or Lita Ford or something along that line, but she does really, when she does choose to sing, it really is a nice voice. But there's a lot of eerie spoken word stuff too on this. This is vocally or lyrically, this is also a really deep stuff too. But
right.
The thing about Dawn, and I'm on this reissue, I'm going to read a couple things that some of the band members quoted about her. Because she passed away, I believe it was in 1996, 97, from basically just liver and kidney disease. Like the drummer, Steve Hockeiser. I do wish Dawn was here to share the memory, because this was like a 30th anniversary of this album. She was so talented, yet her march to self-destruction was unstoppable. Let's see, the Recognized No Authority came and went in less than 2 years, yet 30 years later, the music, her lyrics, and her voice remain relevant. Ross Robinson's quoted here is by saying, she definitely turned me on to the depths of darkness as a fearless expression. It made all the sense in the world. Dawn gave me the most important lesson of my musical adventure, passion with a purpose.
Right. Well, that's well said.
And you hear it, and you certainly hear it in her singing and her lyrics.
Absolutely. So. Well, trailblazer, because she was, there wasn't too many female singers in that sort of mold at that particular time. So definitely a trailblazer and needs to be recognized. So look, thank you very much, buddy, for throwing that over the Pacific Ocean, and I'll definitely explore a lot more, maybe live clips and that album in particular, in respect of Dawn Crosby.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much, folks. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Please like and subscribe to my Music Corner, John's channel. Lots of great content. And me and John, we're going to do another show very soon. Check it out soon. Cheers. See ya.